Hey everyone, Mr. Jonathan here, and today we're going to be drawing Scribbles and Ink. So this is going to be a fun one because as you can see, these characters are drawn in two different styles. So depending on the kind of style you like to draw in, you might have more fun drawing one character or the other. So let's go ahead and dive in. We'll start with Scribbles here and the basic shape. We're going to start with the head. You want to go for something that looks kind of like an oval. The good thing about scribbles here is that when you draw scribbles, it's supposed to be messy and it's supposed to be not perfect. So the shape you're making for the head, you don't have to try too hard to get it just right. Pretty much any kind of oval shape will work. So what I'm gonna do actually is we're gonna put the basic shapes in, and then when we fill them in, that's when the scribbling comes into play. So we don't just want to scribble right away because we won't know the boundaries of the shapes that we need to scribble, right? So what I'm going to do next is draw the curve of the body this way. Going down, you can make it go down as pretty much as far as you want. Scribbles does have a very long and thin body and legs as well. So really you could go pretty far down with the body here. All right. And then for the bottom part here, the legs are actually folded, bended, because it's sitting down, and then some of the weight is also rested on this leg here going down. So what we're gonna do on this side is just flatten it out here. And to draw the feet and the legs bending, it's actually pretty easy. What I do is picture a staircase and then just draw some stairs going up. But one thing you do want to keep in mind is the bottom part, these are going to be the feet. You want this part small. And then as you go up for the knees bending, you want this stairs to be a little bit bigger. So see, it turns out to kind of look like a staircase. But just this one is smaller. This one's a little bit bigger. Usually when we have guidelines like this, when we're drawing our basic shapes and lines like this that we don't need, usually we erase them once we don't need them. But for one of the cool things about this drawing is we're not going to need to erase stuff like this. The reason why is because once we start filling in with all the scratching or scribbling, then all this stuff is going to be covered up. So we could save a few steps, a little bit of work for ourselves, and not have to erase that stuff. Now with this arm, I'm going down, straight down, or actually it's at an angle. And then here, you want the bottom of this foot as much as you can to line up with the bottom here. So if you need to, you could even draw a little guideline for yourself going across, just so that these levels match up. And I am going to put a little bump here for the foot. Okay. All right. So now we have the body, the back legs, front legs. We just need this leg here holding onto the pencil. So I'm gonna go this way. I try to make the elbow bend on the inside. I think it works instead of like if you were to have the elbow bending crossing with this arm, it might look a little bit confusing. Or even if the elbow is bent all the way out here, I don't think the angle would be right for the pencil to rest on the shoulder here. So I'm just gonna bend the elbow here on the inside, go out this way, and then do one of those. Okay, just a little oval shape for the hand. Could be an oval, could be a circle. Remember, for this character, it doesn't have to be perfect at all, or even neat. Okay, basic body in place. The tail, you can pose the tail any way you like. I'm gonna stick with this kind of pose here. I like the way it swirls around at the tip. So if you want to draw the tail like this, you start off with an S curve going up, right? Remember, S curves are any lines with two curves in it. And then once you get up here, you could twist the tail around as much as you like. I'll go to about there, and then just wrap it all the way back around. Okay. One of the tricky things for this drawing would be the pencil. So with the pencil, there's different levels of overlapping. Like here at the end of the pencil, the hand is actually overlapping. So you want the hand over. And then here at the shoulder, the pencil is overlapping. So the way I'm gonna do this is I'll draw the whole pencil, the whole shape of the pencil, cutting through the shoulder here and going into the hand. One of the interesting things that I've seen on the pictures that I was looking up for references is that the drawings of the characters are all done with, you know, like pencil or marker or whatever they use, but the tools that they're holding, the pencil and the paintbrush, they actually use real photographs of real pencils and paintbrushes. But since we can't paste the real photograph in here, what we're going to try to do is just draw these tools kind of as realistically as we can. So here in this case, since the pencil is covering up the body, we do want to get rid of these guidelines that we don't need. So let me erase those. Okay. And then, I mean, at this point, it would be fine if you want to fill in your details for the pencil. So I'm just going to darken up my edges here. And then, you know, fill in the tip here. Draw an extra line. It's like this line right here. And then here, if you want to put an eraser, you can draw a line there and there. Okay. So for the ears for Scribbles, we're going to draw 2 spikes at the top. Only thing you really need to keep in mind is, well, actually, I drew this line pretty dark. I shouldn't have gone that dark right off the bat. But you do want to have a little bit of a gap here in between the ears. They are still close together, but you want to make sure that there is some separation. Okay. Before I start going in with the scribbling, I do want to get the facial features in place. So the eyes are actually pretty simple to draw. We're going to start off with a V shape here. This is going to be the top of the eyes. And then from here, we're going to loop around this way. And this eye is overlapping this eye. So what we're going to do is go on this side and then wrap around and stop right here once we get to that eye. Triangle for the nose, very simple. And then the eyes, so the characters, it was pretty interesting. I did some research on these characters and they seem to clash a lot. So that's why when we drew this with other groups, they were asking, why do they look angry? Well, the reason is because, again, they do clash in their art styles. And the funny thing is, Scribbles is the one that's drawn very messy. Ink is drawn very neat, but their art styles are the opposite. So I saw some videos where Scribbles was doing a painting and he was very careful with everything he was doing. Ink was going really wild and splashing paint all over the place and even over Scribbles' painting. So then they got mad at each other. So they kind of have like that, I guess, I don't know, Tom and Jerry dynamic. They don't really like each other in that way. But I have heard that in some cases they do get along to create some artwork. Now I'm just going to fill in this part here, especially when you're filling in. There is no right and wrong. You just scribble in and fill in all these shapes however you please, really. And this is what I was talking about when I was saying you might like drawing one character more than the other. So some of you, your art style and drawing style might be a little more free and loose, in which case you might like drawing Scribbles better because you could kind of just go wild and do whatever you like. And for you artists who are a lot more organized and neat, when you draw, then you might like drawing ink better. But I will say, at least in my case, I'm usually a very neat and organized artist, but I do like the times I could just go kind of wild and free like I'm doing now. Sometimes you just need that change of pace. So I actually enjoyed drawing scribbles a lot. Okay. And we're just going to fill in the rest here. If you remember in any of our other draw alongs here that we've done before, here I'm doing exactly the opposite of pretty much everything I've taught you all. So usually when I say to fill in something like this with, I guess you could consider this shading in a way. Usually I tell you all to start off very lightly, don't even press your pencil hard, and make it nice and smooth and even. Here, like I said, we're doing all the opposite things. So I'm pressing my pencil very hard, just because if I don't, these lines will be so light they won't even look like scribbles. And then I'm also changing my direction of the pencil that I'm scribbling in, like over and over again. So it's not even smooth at all. And that's actually exactly what we want, at least with this character. Okay. Almost there. And then before I finish up this character, I want to make sure that I don't forget the whiskers here. So just 3 lines going out for the whiskers. And there you go. We got one down. That's scribbles. And now let's get into drawing ink. So jumping into ink here, I am going to start with an oval shape for the head. With ink, we actually do want to be a little bit more careful with our shapes here. You don't need to get it too perfect because the drawing style is still really simple. So even if something is a little bit off, it'll still look okay. But we do want to try to stick to the style and have these two characters looking opposite. And in order to do that, we need to take our time a little bit more with this character. So what I did is I drew the oval first, and then here for the snout part, I started on the inside, go out, and as you curve back down, what your target is to meet back with the oval here at the bottom. You see how it connects there? And then again, we're not going to need this line anymore, but we still don't need to erase it because once we fill it in with the shading, then it's just gonna go away. And then we got the nose here as well, coming out this way. You could draw the full oval if you want. Again, we're gonna shade it in, so that line is gonna kind of disappear. Or if you just want to draw a bump coming out of the snout, you could do that. Okay. Well, getting into the details a little bit early here. Let's do more of the basic shapes here. So here, the body is curved a little bit. If you want to make your body a little straighter, that's no problem. You could do that. Legs are coming down. Okay, we'll save the feet. Actually, we could just draw the shape of the feet right now. We did that for Scribbles. So get your feet in there. Okay. Like I said, very simple characters, so even though we do want to take our time, be a little bit more careful with this one, there's still really no way to mess this up, I think. Okay. Arm going out this way, bending because he is holding the paintbrush. This arm is bending back this way. And then here, we just need to put 4 fingers. Kind of like that. This part could get a little bit tricky with this hand. So what I like to do is, because we're actually, most of the hand is being covered up by the paintbrush. So what I'll do is I'll draw the paintbrush first, going down this way. Okay. Just like the pencil, I'll get the main shape in first, the handle. And then, you know, the brush, the actual bristles of the brush here. And then once that looks good, we could just add in all the details that we want. What I want to do first actually is, because the fingers are overlapping and covering up the handle here, I'll draw the fingers here first. Right? You could even fill it in right away if you want. The thumb, this would be the thumb wrapping around the bottom, and then the top fingers here wrapping around the top. So like that. Okay. Let's notice the angle of this brush is a lot different than this one. That's mostly because the angle of the arm is a lot different than this one. Okay. But just fit it in however you can. Remember, no right or wrong way here. And then I will fill this in here, darken these up. You know, the paintbrush has a little tab at the end. Here, I'll draw an extra line, you know, for the metal part of the brush, and then the bristles. If you want to add a little extra line here showing that there's some ink or paint on the end of the brush, you could do that. Okay. We'll get the shape of the ears in place. And then what I've seen with, at least in the picture I was looking at, the ears are very close together. There's no gap in the middle for ink. So I do the ears just like that. And then here, these openings inside. Something that in my opinion works really well is if you make your outlines nice and dark. Notice I'm just going around the outside parts. That's when you shade it, it's gonna look a lot cleaner if you have nice bold outlines. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. Okay. Remember, just the outside parts. Okay. Well, you could probably even go inside on this part. But anyways, the eyes are gonna be the same thing. Start with a V shape. And then since this eye is the one going over or overlapping, we want to draw this one first. Okay. And then this one going around to tuck behind. So if you're having trouble getting your characters, actually I drew this eye a little bit too small. I should have drawn it a little bigger, but I think it'll still work. Anyways, if you're having trouble getting their eyes to meet, a trick you could use is you have Scribbles pupils here already. So if you just draw like a guideline, or you don't even have to draw an actual line, you could just go along with your pencil, draw an imaginary line, and then connect them to the part, to Ink's eyes. Mine would be here. And then that could help you to get their eyes to meet up how they should. Make them look like they're looking at each other. Okay. So now all the details are in place. The only thing we have left to do is shade it in. And with ink, the shading technique I'm going to use, I've mentioned this a few times before in our other draw alongs, but I'm going to do a lot of light layers of shading here. And what that does is, one, it gives me a little bit more control over how dark I want to make the shading. As you could tell, it's really going to be really light on this first one, but it gives me more control over that. And then it also gives you much smoother shading as well if you do a lot of light layers. So this first layer I'm shading, I'm just going up and down with my pencil. Okay. And then what I like to do after the first layer, again, to make it nice and smooth, is this time I'm going to go side to side and shade it in that way. Okay. And the more times that you go over with layers of shading, then one, the darker it's going to get, and two, hopefully, if you're really taking your time and using good technique, then it's going to get a lot smoother and a lot smoother the more times you go over it. The idea is, because when you're shading, I'll give you an example, like an exaggerated example off on the side here. So when you're shading, you're getting all these white gaps in between all your pencil marks, right? And the more times you shade over it, the more of those gaps you're covering up. So if you go over it more and more times and go over it smoothly, then the more those gaps get covered, the smoother and the darker your shading is going to look. So that's the general idea here. But I mean, if you like to draw and shade just going dark right off the bat, you could do that too. You might even be able to get some good results if you do that. But if you never tried shading this way before, I do suggest that you try it out, just because you might find out this is how you really like to shade. And if you don't like it, then at least you gave it a shot. Okay. It does take a lot more time and patience, though. I will tell you that. All right. Actually, it still looks very light on camera. In person, it's gotten pretty dark. Might just be my lighting. But anyways, there you go. That's your drawing for today, Scribbles and Ink. Hope you all enjoyed, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.